So I had never run for office before. I was a single mom that worked in healthcare, had a second job, and then was working in the unhoused community, working in soup kitchens, working with domestic violence survivors. Never saw myself in politics. The co-op gave me everything I needed, from a campaign plan to a campaign manager, and then community. We were able to fight together. We were able to volunteer, help each other get signatures. We were able to work together. And then when we got in office, to fight together. I took on the Senate finance chair, who was slated to be the next Senate president. He was one of the most powerful men in the state, outspent us 4-1. And we beat him 62-38. Wow. And that was just one of 10 wins. And so there is something to this collaborated effort of running together and winning together and then governing together, because then you hold each other accountable, right? There's no caving, there's no waffling. You know what you came in to do, and you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's sort of, I think, what we had envisioned the Justice Democrats were supposed to be like. Like, I think that's what a lot of us had in our minds, was what we were wanting that to be. And we just didn't quite get that. And I'm wanting to know how we can duplicate that. I mean, Florida, it might not ever be something that can work here, but in other places, some way that we can consolidate power. I mean, how do we do that here?
Well, you need a good slate of candidates that are running, but also the importance of recognizing the lower seats, especially nonpartisan seats. A lot of people are completely disenchanted with the Democratic Party, rightfully so. A lot of people are probably not aware, but there was a lot of, chicanery that was going on in Rhode Island, among other New England states, when Bernie ran against Hillary and against the field in 2020. And so being able to fight against that really starts at the local level. And so anybody who has this theories of grandeur that they're going to start a third party and build this whole other movement, you don't actually have to do that. What you have to do is run for the nonpartisan seats, whether it's school board, city council, county commission. It's all there. And you don't need to be part of the Democratic Party in order to do that. And for those who are willing to be in the Democratic Party, what you are doing is exactly what people should be doing. If you have a good group of people who are willing to run for office, it's like, I've got your back, you've got my back. You're going to cover this territory, I'll cover that territory. At the end of the day, we are not taking corporate special interest money, and that is the unifying issue. It almost doesn't matter what your political stripes are. How do you see it?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one of the things about running everyday working class people is that it inspires other people who didn't see themselves, as a part of this political process, and they're inspired to run for school committee and city council and town council and start to get involved. And that is really important to build that left bench and that power. It's tremendously, tremendously important. Yeah. And to your point about the platform, the not taking corporate PAC money, but we all agreed on the platform, which was the floor, not the ceiling. So if someone was in a district where they wanted to go even further and go louder, then that's great. But we had a common agreement about what we were fighting for.
And I hear what you're saying, and it almost makes me feel like a good way about that. Like I've talked about this idea of the revolving door. We talk about it regarding like corporatists, lobbyists, and congresspeople, but I'm talking about the revolving door between activists and representatives. And the idea of recruiting people that are actually on the ground organizers in areas like housing justice. Absolutely. To be the people that run. And because a lot of those people, like you, never thought that was something, like it wouldn't have necessarily occurred to someone, even though they might be very good at it. And I think that's something that people don't do. We don't actively recruit. And if we were to actively recruit, who would be heading that up? I think about that all the time. Like, I desperately need somebody to run for state senate in Indian River County. And so, but obviously, in Rhode Island, you can obviously reach a lot more people easily than we can. But how do you go about having some sort of organized structure that is really bringing in the right people to do that, to run for those positions?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was tapped on the shoulder to run, I was, like I said, single mom working 2 jobs. I was actively working in the soup kitchen when my friend had founded this organization that was feeding hundreds of folks. And he was connected to Matt Brown. They knew each other from 30 years ago in doing community work. Matt Brown was a former Secretary of State. He's now, ironically, my running mate. He's running for governor and I'm running for lieutenant governor. So interesting story there. And he was out there looking for who is doing the work, to your point, who is doing the service work, who is on the ground, have their hands full with the people that everybody else forgot about. We want those people. And no one's actively seeking them out. But then once I got in, I'm looking around at who else I can call, right? And so I call my friend who I know is a dance teacher, and she works with underserved communities, and I tap her, and she runs, and she wins. And so now we're in together. And so there's this lens of like, we won't let any opportunity go to waste. We're going to, once you are running, those people that dare to run should be out here actively calling in. And calling in other people. Those are the best recruiters. Those are the best people to encourage, because once you say, oh, if I can do it, you can do it. And the party is not out giving permission slips for people to run. They're not asking people to run. They tap up someone on the shoulder to run, and then they have to do exactly as they are told by leadership. And that is all that they can do. And so if you decide to run and you've not been tapped on the shoulder by the political establishment, prior to the co-op, you didn't run. And if you dared to, you didn't win.
Yeah.
And so there is this model now of being able to share resources, share information, get the training that you need in order to run and win. And so, yeah, to answer your question, the people that are doing the work and that are out serving the community should be the ones empowered. To your point about the activists, yeah, like, you know, the people that have been marching and holding signs and doing protests should be the ones and the ones helping those that are unhoused should be the ones in the seats of decision making. Let the corporate lobbyists go out and picket. Let the bankers march. Let the fossil fuel industry, you know, strike, because we're done with the fact that they have all the power and we're left outside. Let's flip it. Let's get inside.
I agree. So what is the current, are you running, is it an open seat or is there an incumbent sitting there?
There is an incumbent. And so I am running on a joint ticket with Matt in Rhode Island, Matt Brown. In Rhode Island, there is no formal relationship between governor and lieutenant governor. So we're running together. This is very innovative. It's never happened here. The current lieutenant governor was appointed because our governor had moved on to DC and the lieutenant governor had moved up. And so although she is the incumbent, the state had not voted for her. So there is a little bit of an even playing field there. Yeah. And one thing I did want to bring up to you about your point about the activists and how important that is. You don't lose that when you're in office. We actually put a huge protest together in the winter because Rhode Island was the only Democratic state that hadn't spent a cent of its ARPA money. And we were in the middle of a housing crisis in the middle of the winter. And we had unprecedented numbers of people outside. And I know those people because that's the work I did before. And so I was frustrated and angry and couldn't do anything to change that because the leadership wouldn't call us in for a special session. They wouldn't spend the money. And so organized a protest that made local and national news. I actually forced the leadership. We were out, slept outside in front of the State House for 16 days. Started with 6 of us. The police kind of accosted us at first, so it kind of blew up in the news. And then more people came and more people came, faith leaders, health workers, you name it. It just started growing. 16 nights out, we had several hundred people out with us. And finally, the administration opened up 400 new shelter beds, and several municipalities opened money for folks that were unhoused. But the benefit of having people in office that were activists and community workers is that you don't forget that, and those are tools that you use, and they're not prepared. They don't know how to navigate that. They don't know how to. They will literally do anything to fight. That scares them.
That's what we saw with Cori Bush too. That kind of spirit, and that's what we need to be seeing. And we're always seeing from where we're sitting this constant battle between people on the outside that are always criticizing electoral politics and saying you're wasting your time running as a Democrat, like all of that stuff. And instead of working with the people on the inside they sit there and try to knock down the people on the inside.
Yeah.
And we've always been promoting this idea of working together. And obviously that's made much easier when the people on the inside were the same as the people on the outside. I mean, that is like, to me, that's the goal. Like, so I love this idea. I think it should be a revolving door of non-corporate people. I think that's what we need.
Yeah.
And we see it on the moneyed end. They have no trouble. Like, I look at Kirsten Sinema, she doesn't want to run again probably. And she's just going to go into some big lobbying job making, whatever. And that's what they're doing. And I think we need to be doing that. Like that same concept as well.
I agree 100%. And so now we're going back to win governing majority. So I'm running on a joint ticket with Matt Brown. He's running for governor. I'm running for lieutenant governor. And the co-op is gearing up to run a slate of 50 candidates for legislature. So we're going for the whole thing, getting a governing majority in the near term in 2 election cycles. That's the plan.
How can people support that? I mean, more importantly, how can we need to do that? Like, I can't even fathom a universe wherein anybody in Florida could come together in any way, shape, or form to do something like that. We can't even get the tri-county progressives to come together to form an organization. 3 counties out of how many can't even somehow unite out of 67. So like, how can people support this? Like, what's the website or what is the organization?
Yes, absolutely. So Matt and I, it's Matt and Cynthia for RI. You can go there and find out how to volunteer, support, donate. That's really, really important. And then also the Rhode Island Political Cooperative is the cooperative's kind of website. We're running together on a shared platform. So we're running a statewide.
Rhode Island Political Cooperative.
Political Cooperative is the name of the cooperative's website.
We need that.
And so watching them, I think to answer your question about how this can be done, is we are actually right now, a lot of states are watching what we do in Rhode Island, because if we're able to pull this off, it will be it can be repeated in other states. And rarely, this is another interesting issue, is that fundraising, right? We're not taking corporate PAC money, we're not taking fossil fuel money, and progressives, like, we're out here, we don't have a lot of money. So how are we actually able to fundraise? And on the state level, it's very, very difficult. Congressional candidates can hop over to New York, DC, et cetera, and fundraise. But with this model, because states are so desperate and Democrats are so incredibly desperate for change, there are donors that are willing to look at Rhode Island, donate to candidates there, because they know if we succeed, then it would be able to kind of happen in their state. And so we have to start thinking of investing cross borders as well, so that we can start to build governing power across the state. And sometimes in Rhode Island, that might mean in places that are close, hopping over and volunteering across the district. We have to be able to share resources and in that way, in a very smart way, in order to accomplish this. And that means if another district wins, we win. If another state wins, we win. And we have to think that way.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.